Aloha, everybody. Welcome to the Open-Hearted Practice Group. And this is Jim, and Jory and I are back in separate chairs today because we have a plan that requires a little bit more Zoom dexterity. We need to be able to move back and forth between lots of different rooms. So we'll say more about that in just a minute. How are you, Jory?
I'm glad to be here. I'm especially glad to be with all of you. This is, for me, a really sweet time when we come together like this and see what we can all learn. And we seem to sound like we know it all, but we don't. I'm a lifelong learner along with all of you. And Jim is too, whether he admits it or not.
Oh yeah, I learned
Of
something
course he
every
is.
day. Absolutely. That's why I do this work, you know? I mean,
Of
that's one
course.
of Marshall's dreams was mutual education, where we're all learning
Yeah.
from each other. And that's how it feels like my life has been like for the last 20 years. Lots and lots of learning.
Yeah. I don't remember where it's from, but I have this saying in my head, we're not done yet.
Now we got plenty of room to run and to grow.
Oh, I know what that was from, a very old movie. Yeah,
Yeah, from Monty Python.
exactly. Thank you. I knew he'd save me and tell me exactly where it came from.
Yeah, so today's class is called Practice, Practice, Practice. And so we're going to do something kind of fun. I call it a slow motion role play. And I'll explain more after we do a self-connection exercise, give you a chance to get to know your teammates today. It'll be a little bit different than other classes that we've done because they're going to try to emphasize and have as much time for practice as possible.
And Jim, have you done all the breakout rooms, or do you want me to do that?
I've done it. I'm doing it.
You're an amazing multitasker.
Yeah, I'm channeling my inner mother. Mothers are the world's multitaskers. You know, you can have one on each breast while you're cooking dinner and probably talking on the phone. And I mean, the demands on mothers of the world are incredible. They have the most important job on the whole planet.
I modeled that for you as a mother, yes, no doubt. We had two.
Yeah. Okay, so let me share the screen with you for our self-connection exercise today. Again, everything's going to be a little bit different today, just for the fun of it. So first, just look around the room that you're in, like we often do, just to orient yourself to where you are right now.
Jim, do you want that a zero step on the screen while you do this?
I do.
Okay, great. Okay.
And so just look around, let your eyes go wherever they want to go. And so your eyes are kind of taking in the whole of your environment. And then when you're ready, just allow your eyes to rest on that the center of the computer screen where it says zero step. And focus on just those two words. And as if you're putting all of your attention into this little pinpoint spot on your device, whatever device you see that on. Focusing on it like it really matters that that's what you're focusing on. Nothing else exists except for this little tiny point. And then soften your gaze and move just slightly beyond the words to the circle that includes the word zero step. So now you've softened your gaze and you're taking in just a little bit more. And then go back and focus on the space between the O and the S. So you're really looking at the center of the screen, just that little pixel, that little dot, and then allow your eyes to soften again and move out to the whole little circle around the word zero step. And go back and forth, alternate between a very narrow focus and a slightly wider focus. Just play with that for a moment. And then this time, allow your eyes to defocus even more and see if you can take in all the white space around the zero step. So your eyes are even a little bit more soft now, taking in more of the screen. And then pinpoint right back into the center again. So go back and forth between the focused awareness and the softened awareness. And then on the next one, next time you're defocusing, make it even bigger and see if you can take in all 9 colors. Don't have to worry about the words. Just take in everything and then focus back on the little point in the middle. So alternating from this little point to the whole big circle. And then expand it out again on the next one. So you go from the little narrow spot right in the center of the screen and include your whole monitor or device screen, whatever you're looking at. So your eyes are pretty defocused. You may not even be able to clearly see any words because you're allowing your eyes to take in the whole screen. Soft focus. Very open. And then zero back in again on the center spot. And then this time, allow your vision to expand beyond the device. So you're taking in everything in your environment that's in the same direction that you're facing. So things are probably less distinct and clear. There's just an open, maybe even fuzzy experience of the whole world that's outside of the device screen. Just soften and open and receive all of that. And then zero back in on the center again. And do that a few times. And as you do it, notice if you sense anything different in the body from the focus to the defocused. To see if you notice anything. You might not, doesn't matter. And then this time, when you're defocused and looking as wide as possible, just imagine all the things that are outside of what you can see, but you know they're there. Like as I do it, I can see through my peripheral vision, I can tell there's a door somewhere over there and there's a wall over there. But even beyond that wall, I know there's a bathroom and a training room, and out beyond that wall, there's a garden. So just allow it to go to things that you can't even see, but just allow your focus to include it all. Very open focus. Sensing how wherever you are, you're part of something much bigger than just your body. And then zero back in on the zero step again. And then tune into your body and allow your eyes to close and rest. Just be with yourself, be with your body's experience. And as you connect to the feelings in your body, just notice whatever you feel, name it, and allow it. Whatever your experience is perfect for you. Today, we're here for practice. So you came here for practice. So connect to the needs that you're hoping to meet by being here today. And so if you have something to write on and write with, just write down the words feelings, needs, and requests, or somehow keep track of those three words: feelings, needs, and requests. Because I'm gonna invite you to go to a small group here, unless you put an equal sign in front of your name, and check in. And the groups are going to be bigger today because this is going to be like a little team for you today. So you'll have about 8 minutes to get to know each other a little bit. But so say your name and then how you're feeling when it's your turn to talk. Connect that feeling to your need, and then see if there's a request that comes up for you about that somehow expresses why you're here today. So it might sound like this. So I'm Jim, and I'm from Maui. And I'm feeling really curious. And the need that's most alive in me is contribution and connection. And my request is that you try this very brief check-in in your small groups and see how it works. So notice that it only took me about 10 words. So Jory, would you do it?
Yeah, I just also want to acknowledge that it was under a minute.
Yeah.
So say the steps again, Jim.
Yeah, I'm going to put it in the chat. Name, where you're from, the feeling that's alive in you right now, not the story, just the feeling, the need that's connected to that, and any requests that you have of yourself.
So my name is Jory.
I want milk for you guys.
We need to mute somebody.
I got it.
Hold on a sec. Okay, thanks. My name is Jory. I'm currently on Maui in the middle of the Pacific. I'm feeling some delight, and the need that is stimulating that is companionship, belonging. And my request is that each of you do that and take less than a minute so that everybody has a turn.
Yeah, so I'm setting the timer for 8 minutes, which is a little bit less than normal. So look at the puzzle I'm giving you. Less time, more people. And this is a practice to be as brief as you can for the practice. So just say those 5 items: your name, where you're from, your feeling, your need, and your request. You'll probably be done before the whole 8 minutes. Then you can do whatever you want for the last part.
And for each of you to take some responsibility if someone is missing one of the steps. You just, someone says their name and then start to talk about something else or goes directly to their feeling. You just say, and where are you from? To support them to go back into the process one step after the other.
Okay. Any questions before we do that? Okay. Enjoy the practice. We'll see you back here in about 9 minutes.
Bye-bye.
Everybody else will be back in about 10 seconds.
It's nice to see friends here that I know personally and some that I don't know. And here we are.
And here we are.
Welcome back.
Yeah. So now notice how you feel.
Yeah.
You had a chance to connect and do some practice of listening and speaking. This is all like warming up. It's all like warming
We have
up.
time to hear from some people about how that practice was for them.
Yeah, we do. We have time to hear from a couple.
Yeah.
I'd like to share something. I was having a problem with the request because I almost felt like I don't have the right, like I don't know anybody. So usually I can only, like I can request anything from anyone technically, but I don't know. I just like, and then I'm like, okay, can I request like, well, everybody, I wish everyone have a good time. Is that I enjoy, I wish you get something out of this. Like, is that a request? Because I couldn't, I came up with a blank. I really, and I like I was doing it wrong or whatever. Okay, that's
It works for me.
What I heard was a wish and a request built in with it.
So a wish can be a request, basically.
A wish, for me, a wish is like one step away from a request. Wishes tend to be kind of vague and in the future. Like, I wish you guys have a good practice group or learn something in the practice group. And a request would be, I'm really hoping for some learning today. Would somebody tell me what you hear is important to me? And then somebody might say, yeah, you really want to learn something today. Boom.
Right.
So then you have a clear and specific request for someone to reflect back your need. So that's the main
specifically, you know, is that how you understood it? Things like that.
Yeah.
But what if you don't want, like, but I'm resisting it. Like, I don't feel like requesting anything. And I feel like that's not a choice.
That's okay. That's okay. If you're in the flow, in the flow of life, you may not have a request. Other than
maybe your request is who wants to go next?
That's a good one. Yeah, thank you. I like that.
All right. Now you have one in your back pocket.
Yeah.
That's a good
one. Yeah.
Okay, Isabel?
Yes, it was lovely being in the group with a lot of people, several people. We had a good time sharing the time. And I wanted to put out a request to you. I believe you do that anyhow, but we had a couple of new people joining and they wanted to know something about the recording and where to. So if you could just remember to put the link to all the recordings.
Yes, we
Thank
will.
you.
We'll put the link to the recording at the end of the call. And just so you know, the things that are in the main room here are recorded when we're all here. But when you're in your small groups, nothing is recorded. That's just a private meeting between you and your friends. So we have no idea what's going on there.
And I just want to also say that when you get the link to the recording of this class, you'll also have the recordings to all the classes that we have posted.
Anything else for anybody before we move into practice? Okay. So good, we have a whole hour to practice after I explain the practice. Some of you have done this practice with us before. We did it maybe a year ago, a year and a half ago, something like that. And everybody loved it. They wanted to do it week after week after week. We did it about 4 weeks in a row. We haven't done it for a while. But here's what the practice is. In a little while, we're going to give you a conflict that you're going to be working on. We're going to be one party in the conflict, and everybody and then you and your team are going to be the other party in your conflict. So let me share the screen and I'll see if I can explain this to you. So, so this is your small group that you were just in. There's 4 or 5 parts to each group, just like real human beings. We're complex, we have different parts to us. And so that's what we're representing here, is the various parts of a human being. And it's also representing community. So this is a little pop-up community that got created today with either 4 or 5 people. And you're going to be a team. And the purpose of your team is to navigate a conflict with this guy over here, Mr. Red, and that's a person played by either me or Jory. It might be a different person each time because we got 10 groups going here and we have to bounce back and forth between the groups. So when you go back to the small groups here, the first thing that you'll be doing is kind of reconnecting with this thing called the 0 step. Basically just means getting clear on the intention about the practice. You're here to practice nonviolent communication, which is based on connection. So that's the main thing, that if you just remember this for the whole hour, everything else will go just fine. And so that's your first step, is get back together in the community, get clear with one another on your intention to connect. And that might require a little bit of empathy, and maybe not, maybe you'll just be ready to go. When you're ready to go, you'll have this sense of kind of coherence as a community. And you can then push the button on your Zoom interface that says call for help. Call for help. That will send a little message to us here in the main room, me and Jory in the main room. And then one of us will visit you and we'll give you the first line of the conflict. We'll open our mouths and we'll give you just one sentence of what's alive in us. We'll be honest with you and about what the conflict is about, where we stand with it. And then we immediately leave. Okay? So we say one sentence and then we're going to disappear. And now you're left with your group of 4 or 5, 3 or 4 partners. And you have to, excuse me, your task is then to work with each other to figure out, okay, now what do we do? Jim just said this thing, or Jory just said that. And so now you need to kind of brainstorm with each other. How are we going to handle this in a quote NBC way? How are we going to live this consciousness together? And you should see a little button when you get into the small group, Gail, that will show you, that will say call for help. It might even show up on the bottom of your screen with the other tools. It's been a while since I've done this, so I think somebody in your group will probably know how. If we don't hear from a group, we'll try to visit it anyway. So, okay. Any questions so far? 4 or 5 people, you're one person. Me and Jory were the other person. And here comes the conflict. These 2 people, the 5 of you and Jory and me, we're friends. We've been friends for a long time. We're very well connected. We're part of the same community. But you've had a little bit of a rough patch lately, financially. And about, I don't know, a month or 2 ago, you asked to borrow 200 from us. I don't know 200 what, because I don't know what the currency, but we're just going to make up 200 giraffe dollars. You borrowed 200 giraffe dollars from us. And Jory and me, we haven't heard from you about this debt. And so we're going to visit you and talk about this 200 giraffes that you owe us. So that's the conflict. And you don't exactly know what we're going to ask or what our idea is, but you're going to find out. So you'll get one line of the conflict, then we leave, and then you talk about it with each other, When you think you've got a plan on what you want to say to us, you push call for help. One of us will eventually visit you. You give us your new line. And then we respond again to that, and then we leave again. So now you're left with a new observation. So each time you'll have a different little puzzle to play as we go through the conflict. So who could tell me what your understanding of the game is? See if I was able to get it across clearly. What's going to happen? Yeah, Rena.
There goes Rita.
Yeah. So I heard that you're going to put us in a breakout room in a small group. So that'll be like a community, and we would then firstly get to the 0 step and connect with our intention of NVC to connect and to be present, and keep the needs in awareness. And then we can call you for help, and we are preparing to kind of be in a process of conflict resolution. So when we call you for help, and the situation is around we as an individual have borrowed 200 giraffe money from you, and when we call you for help, you'll come in because you want to inquire about, you've not heard from us, and you are inquiring about what we owe you. So when you come in, then you will say something, and we will again, and go away. We will again deliberate and kind of go through the OFNR with your observation that you give us, and then call you again.
Thank you, Rena. That seemed quite clear. And I just also want to respond to what you put in here, Katja. It says we are negotiating a solution. In the bigger picture, perhaps, but not in the beginning. We're first negotiating connection and just having a dialogue here initially.
Yeah, so it's, remember, let me just say, remind you all, especially if it's your first time, boy, you kind of came into the middle of the movie, but you're still going to have fun. But we've been working on these skills for about 2 months. And so today is kind of like the integration practice, but it's okay. Everybody here, even if this is your very first meeting, you know all this stuff because you're a human being and you're going to do just fine. And so, the main thing is to remember the purpose of nonviolent communication, which is to create a quality of connection that inspires compassionate giving and receiving. That's all you need to realize, is that we're just trying to connect here in order to figure out how to give and receive from each other. Juan?
Thank you, Jean. I just have a small request, because just now in the check-in group, we have four people. Only 2 of us have a camera on and talked. Another 2 did not have no response. So my request is that possible we can have more people in our group, or you put us in a different group?
Okay.
And
So I think I have you in room 5.
I was, yeah.
And I will come and visit room 5 and see how it is right after you get started again, and see if I need to move you around. I did make a couple of changes. There's another person in there now.
Yeah, what I heard was 2 people weren't responsive, so.
Yeah.
So make sure there's at least 4, Jim, other than those 2.
Okay. I think it's going to work now.
Okay.
We'll find out. And I can
Thank
always.
you for letting us know, Jean.
Anything else for anybody? Okay, remember, the main goal here is to have fun and to see what you can learn about NVC. It's not to get it right. It's not to perform. It's not to try to convince anybody of anything. It's just mostly just to have fun.
And before you press send, is there anyone who does not know what we're going to do next? Is there anyone who's unclear? Okay, Shizuka is unclear. So
Maybe.
Jim, that will be the first room that you go into, okay?
Maybe. Let's just find out from Shizuka. Shizuka, is something up for you? Do you have a question, Shizuka?
It was really not clear for me, so I wanna one more explanation.
Okay. So let me see which group you're in.
Two.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Rena's in there with you. So Rena can kind of guide you through the process. Rena's done this before, and she's on the verge of becoming a certified trainer. So she'll be able to guide you, I think.
Mhm.
And so we will do this. Sudha just asked how much time. We're going to do this for 40 minutes, 40. So we'll go to 10 minutes till the top of the hour for most of us, 10 minutes before the bottom of the hour for those of us in India. So it's a nice long practice.
And when you think about 40 minutes, it may sound like a lot of time, and you're having an opportunity to communicate with your group to get clear on what you're going to say next. So of course it takes some extra time, and then there'll be and then there'll be a response from Jim or I, and then you'll have another opportunity for that conversation. So when you go into your group, you're going to just get clear on how you're going to invite the conversation. So, and try and get clear on inviting that conversation within the first 5 or 10 minutes. It shouldn't take all that long to invite, but just to then be able to get on to the dialogue.
Yeah. Yep. A pro tip from previous ones. What people are mostly deciding on who's going to be the spokesperson for the group when Jim or Jory visits, who's going to deliver this message. So that's part of your 0 step, is figuring out who's going to be the message bearer. Then you will all receive it back. Okay.
And then you'll get clear on what the message is going to be. And just if we haven't been clear enough on this one, just to make it very clear, when we come, you will make the statement that you would like to make to us. We will respond and then immediately go away. So it's not actually going to be a dialogue in the beginning. It's going to be a very slow paced dialogue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And so we will, oh, by the way, if you press the call button and we don't show up, just keep pressing it. You know, we've got, what do we end up with? We have 7 groups, so there's only 2 of us, so we can only be in one place at a time. So you might have to make more than one request. And if you get totally frustrated, you can send one person back to the main room and hover here and then beg us to come and visit you, and we will. Okay, see you guys when you call us.
Be here together. And I would love to hear from people what you and your group did. What did you and your group do to support connection?
You can either put the answer into the chat, or you can raise your hand and actually speak it so that people listening to the recording will hear it.
And
lots of empathy. Yes, lots of empathy.
uh-huh.
Yep, I really enjoyed that in some of the groups that I was kind of my evaluation of myself was I was a little bit mean, and the meanness was coming from fear. I was really scared, and I really appreciated how people met me with some empathy, even though I didn't accept the empathy very graciously. I said in some groups, I said something like, "I don't need your empathy. I need $200."
Uh-huh.
I really appreciate the intuition that empathy can start to bring down the level of conflict.
Yeah, so Diane says lots of empathy, and that was really very supportive. And then we were there for each other, Nikhil Ananda writes, which is so delightful to hear, because putting you into groups, that's one of the purposes, not just to figure out the puzzle but also to connect with each other. So I'm delighted to hear that. We work together, mindful discussion. I felt we tried to reflect what had been said before and then say the comments. Yes, that's very helpful. And then Sudha writes, I would love to know how it was for you, Jim and Jory, to navigate different groups, to step in and out. And I'll answer for myself first that for me, I just had a role I was playing and I brought it wherever I went. And then I just responded to however people responded to me, that in whatever way it influenced me. But I went in initially, before I even heard you, with that same sort of hungry ghost experience of, oh, I got
Yeah, for me,
That's interesting. Katja said you are loving, Jory. Jim was not. I
Yeah.
thought I was probably the one who was dissing everybody. Jim was
Well,
worse than me, huh?
I'm the big scary older man, the grumpy old man. So my experience, Sudha, was actually profoundly present. I really got to have the direct experience that each line of a dialogue is a brand new beginning. And so I didn't even know what had happened the last time, because sometimes I was in a completely new group. So the observation was not, the observation of what you said to me was not necessarily tied to a story.
Mhm.
It was tied just to the present moment in the sense of connection. And I really actually want to remember that in real life.
That's your takeaway, huh, Jim?
Yes. And Sat says, honesty, self-compassion, gratitude. Everybody there told me how we can cherish authenticity.
That's interesting. Katja said, you are loving, Jory. Jim was not. That's how I didn't actually go in there in a loving space. I went in there as a hungry ghost.
Yeah.
And John, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a curious question about Jim because Jim was with us last 1 minute and I talked to him and he finally agreed with us. We kind of really celebration after he left. So my curious is the reason you agreed because the time is out. You just let us have some cheerful moment, or you really feel when talk to you, you feel being heard, being embassied, and also the request, the strategy will come out really can really
Yeah.
fit.
I think I like your question. And I think my experience in that particular group and a couple of groups was that we moved beyond either or, and we moved into collaboration. And so that to me is the beauty of NBC. If we stay stuck with single-mindedness of purpose, I must get paid and you must not pay me, and we stay there, we can stay in conflict forever. But as I worked with that particular group and a couple of others, I got enough empathy to soften and open to possibility. And so then when you made this proposal, a collaborative proposal, then I was much more open to it. So it was being met where I was with, nobody tried to make me wrong in any of the groups. Nobody said, Jim, you need to be a nice guy. Jim, you need to be more flexible. I didn't have a sense of judgment anywhere. I just had a sense of connection. And I really celebrate that. And so it was that sense of connection that softened my heart, in my case, and opened me to the possibility that maybe we could find a collaborative solution that I hadn't thought of. So I appreciated the creativity.
Yeah.
I want to comment on, in the group I joined, I was telling them about saying being a mediator in the court system where the collection agencies are always there saying we need our money. And I always, before the mediation, I always saying I use NVC. And basically to say, sometimes it's not just the collection agents that saying, I need money. It's sometimes family members suing one another, saying that they need their money or they need, payment for work done. Sometimes it's what one person might say that they need the money, but it's not the money that is essential in family, in neighbors, in landlords. It's understanding their plight.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And to say,
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
say, this is where we are. And then ask them saying, if I have this amount, I don't have the money. I know that we didn't set this up, or I set it up, but I went into a problem. What about if we start now and say, I'll pay you in such and such a thing? And this would be okay. Once both of them are listening to one another, since I don't suggest anything, I'm just here to guide the process.
Yeah.
They always come up with to understand the situation if they listen properly to one another.
Yeah, your intuition is spot on, Rita. That kind of underlying the NVC conflict resolution model is that if we focus on connection and we get and connecting at the level of universal human needs, then that will move us from a scarcity of either or strategies into the abundance of needs, and that stimulates creativity. Our brains are exquisitely designed to meet needs. It's like the only function of our brain is to help us meet needs. So when we're able to formulate what the needs are, our brain automatically gets busy coming up with strategies. But if we start with strategies rather than needs, then we can continue to go bump. So like earlier in the conflict with one of the groups, somebody wanted to start negotiating right off the bat. It's like the first line of the or maybe the second line of the role play was, how about we do an installment plan or something like that. I wasn't ready for strategy yet. And I got pretty grumpy about that. I don't want installments. I want my money by Tuesday, because I didn't have a sense of getting caught yet with how vital this was for me. Thanks, Sat. See you next time. Rena?
So when you mentioned collaboration, because this was a group effort, I realized in our group that, we were focusing on connecting with you, Jory and you. And at some point, of course, we were checking that, is it okay? Shall we call Jim or Jory? And we heard a yes from everyone. But sensing the connection amongst us might have been compromised, in the rush to go ahead and focus connection with both of you. Because once we were kind of through, we were checking in with each one that how was it for us? And there was someone who felt that we gave in or, something like that. So it reminds me that a yes, to slow down, even in our group, if it's a yes, to slow down and check again, make space for a yes, which is a yes under pressure, or so I'm holding some unease around how the group could have taken care of, we could have taken care of each other in the process. Yeah, does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I said a lot.
What I'm catching is that you notice the complexity of the situation. On the one hand, there's the dynamic within the group of 4 or 5, and the connection that's necessary in order to actually come to consent, and then to invite Jim or Jory in. That's one level of the connection. Then there's the relationship between all these parts and either Jim or Jory. And in this case, Jim and Jory, they seem to have a split personality. One of them's really loving and the other one's a real, patoot. And so you never know which one's going to show up. And so that's a lot of complexity to hold. And what I catch from you, Rena, is maybe a little bit of mourning that you would have liked to take a little bit more time to build a connection within the group to make sure that nobody was submitting and everybody was truly in consent. I catch it? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the meta.
And one doesn't know
No.
because I heard a clear yes.
Yes.
But to really hold that as a new observation and then do the repair work, because there's always a new chance.
Absolutely.
So I'm mourning, but not scared of disconnect. I'm like, okay, now my empathy or my focus is somewhere else.
Yes.
So that's the beauty of compassionate giving and receiving and the 0 step.
Yes. And that's the beauty of this practice. I want to just give credit before I go to these other two hands. I want to give credit to Jorge Rubio. He was an early trainer for Jory and me, and because he lived in New Mexico where we were. He lives in Colombia. But as far as I know, he's the one who invented this exercise. And I did it for the first time at the first IIT I ever went to. And I love it for that reason of complexity, because what really is important is the connection in the small group. What happens with Jim or Jory is the least important thing, but it's getting that sense of connection in the small group. And so hopefully that's the lesson that many of you took away, that how we behave together in the small group really matters for what happens in the complexity of the relationship with Jim and Jory. So that's wonderful that you brought that up, Rena. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Tanya?
Yeah, Rena, I really appreciated hearing how you were doing your group. For me, doing these exercises, that's really one of the parts of the exercises, because I'm pretty sure by myself that I could navigate the scenario. What's really delightful for me is making sure that everyone in the group has a voice and that they can ask any question they want or make any statement they want when it's their turn, and just sort of discuss, okay, what do you want to say? What do you want to say, Bobby, in response to what you just heard? Well, I think this and that. And, just sort of the whole group just supporting Bobby in coming up with their statement. And then Bobby being totally free to have any statement they want. So to encourage their learning, that all of us are in there to learn something more about how to negotiate these things and doing it under stress, because there's a little bit of stress people feel, even though it's a scenario. And I love it. I love that part of it. I love watching people come up with, having time to come up, how am I going to respond to this? And that's, to me, the beauty of it.
Thank you, Tanya. And I also love how you're pointing out the power of leadership, because your presence in the group, this is true for all of you, not just Tanya, but your presence in the group mattered because you were all co-leading. You didn't have time for an election to find out who the boss was going to be. You actually were thrust into a partnership paradigm. In a way, without choice. I mean, you chose to come to the practice group, but you didn't know what was going to happen today. And then all of a sudden, Jim and Jory, they throw you into a group and say, collaborate. And so you had to figure out how you were going to lead, what needs you were going to contribute to. Was it going to be the one who kind of speaks up for the unspoken voices? Was it the one who sits back a lot? Was it the one who takes a more active role? Was it the reflector? There's all these different roles that you probably also took turns playing to help navigate the conflict. Thank you, Tanya. Isabel.
Yes, thank you for allowing me to speak. I just want to express my gratitude to the perfect team. By perfection, I mean we all were staged and we were all doing our part. And it was wonderful witnessing that and taking part of it. One of my requests today was to fully participate. I was able to do that. And I want to add to what we were all talking about, the complexities, starting with Rena. and Tanya. It's about, I want to add to that complexity, the inner dialogue that I was having. There was at every moment, and one of my team members were saying, I'm afraid of hogging. I'm afraid of hogging, he kept saying. And that's in me as well. And we see that. And at the same time, whenever somebody is bringing up a topic, I had an inner dialogue of wanting to follow that topic and empathize versus going back to the practice. So I had this massive complexity playing in me. And at every time I dropped it and stayed in the moment with attention in the moment. And what I am taking away as a result is, it's, after all, the mediation and all this work is about connection. So next time I'm in such a situation, I will primarily remember the word, the key word. Am I connecting? Does my body feel connected? And stay with that. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful barometer. That's one of the most beautiful takeaways you can have from this kind of an exercise. Am I connected? Or even, do I want to connect? Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. And it also is the most likely way that you'll find something that can be helpful, because you're working as a team when you come in with that energy. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Siva?
So I'm asking everybody, especially those of you who are professional educators, can you see a classroom in as young as elementary school or even pre-K learning this mindful process or not?
I think it's certainly possible, because I know it's possible because it's happening. There's a project in Denmark where they're teaching it to at least kids as young as kindergartners. And they have a peace corner. Kids are already doing mediation work. They already have a process built into the classroom. And there's YouTube videos. You can just look up Denmark NVC kids, and you'll see what they're doing in Denmark. It's very, very exciting, and it's being replicated all in different ways all over the world. But for me, as an educator, I'm not a professional educator other than being a trainer, but I'm certainly not a trained teacher. But for me, the most important part of shifting the system is not to teach the kids, but to help the adults to create a life-serving system so that they're getting the empathy they need. Do you realize that how much empathy a teacher must need at the end of the day after trying to talk about complexity? How about you got 40 kids in your classroom and your aide didn't show up today, and the lunchroom is not functioning properly, and and now we have an active shooter drill or some godforsaken thing like that, and so teachers just need tons of empathy. We need to figure out a way to get teachers and students and parents. We need to build a whole system around needs and figuring out how to address these needs in the educational world. Kinneret.
Thank you.
Oh, Joy, you want to say something?
Kinneret, no, I was calling on Kinneret.
Go, Kinneret.
Yeah. No, you did a good job, Jim. Kinneret, good.
Kinneret, okay.
Kinneret.
Very good. Yeah, good practice. We had a wonderful team member who had done the exercise, and they kind of explained and helped us get it, and it was good. It was good. But what I take away from this is we had one member, Purva, I have to acknowledge you. She's like, what? She just brought, for me, just so much warmth to the interaction. That no matter what people said, she had such warmth and empathy. I felt that I was like, oh, that feels really nice. Oh, it was like waking up parts in me. I'm a very much a to-do person. I'll get everything done, What's my assignment? Boom, it's done. But where's that gentleness? Where's that warmth? Where's that empathy? It's like, how do I get things done? In what way do I get them done?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what an important question, because it's like our the very first exercise we did with the kind of like meditation at the beginning. I was a variation on something I learned just a day or two ago from Ian McGilchrist, who is a neuroscientist and a philosopher, and he's talking about how to balance the left brain and the right brain. And the left brain is the part of our brain that divides the world up into little bitty pieces and is very good at strategies and maybe making requests and figuring out, how to divide the world up into separate pieces. And the right brain sees wholes. And so the exercise, and I recommend you do this a couple times a day, find one little thing to focus on and then expand it out and defocus. And so the focus is the left brain, and then expanding it out is the right brain. And so you're actually increasing your capacity to move beyond our habit. We've been trained to solve problems, get things right. That's all left brain stuff. And when we move into that relational space, that warmth, that empathy, that's all here. That's the whole brain is now enacted. And so we can actually train ourselves to start building those connections with little bitty exercises, at least according to Dr. McGilchrist. And he knows more about it than I do. So I'm practicing with it.
And for those of you who were here right in the beginning, that was our self-connection exercise. So you had that direct experience.
Yeah.
And now you can practice it. And Monica? I see your hand.
Yeah, I'm trying to unmute myself. Okay, so
Yeah.
for me, I was totally into strategy because I'm so used to doing mediation with my students, and I mean, we do the feelings and needs and empathy at the beginning, and then after that it's strategy. So I was really thinking about strategy the whole time. So I was just asking you, Jim, for a suggestion of how to get out of that space, because my brain was just totally going strategy. And yes, I use this with my middle school students, 7th and 8th graders. I've used it with 11, 12, and 13-year-olds, and they love it, and it's awesome. And they actually are mediators and counselors use them.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Monica. Yeah, it's a very deep habit. I mean, I've been an MVC trainer for 20 years now. My habit is still to try to just fix it. I have these two lovely women I live with, Jory and Jaya, both very skillful trainers in their own right and connectors, and they're way beyond me in empathy skills. And they'll come to me needing a little bit of empathy, and sometimes I just completely forget. And I'll just say, "Oh, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that?" And then they're there to.
And luckily you have two people who will say, no, I don't want that.
Yeah, just somebody might say, hey, how about you just catch me first? Then we can solve it together. I love it when you do that. I think we can really support each other. How about you just
the beauty of that is that since you live in the same kind of cultures that we do in terms of the fix-it jackal coming up, and so you just keep asking you actually ask for the acknowledgement if that's what you're really wanting, rather than making the person wrong for doing it. He's giving me so much practice. I'm sure I've given you practice too, Jim.
Absolutely. We that's the whole purpose of building community, is because we really need each other. And this exercise, having 4 or 5 people, you probably had the direct experience of, you got to work with these different parts. You got to negotiate parts. Well, that's part of the complexity. We have these different parts inside of us. We have a fix-it jackal. We have an empath. We have somebody that wants to run away. We got somebody that just wants to go to bed. It's got somebody that wants to rather play video games or whatever. And so we're also working with negotiating between these parts until we can get all the parts to be in harmony about how we want to address the needs that are on the table. So speaking of which, let's do our end of the call stuff. So the first link I'm putting into the chat is if you're here for the first time and you want to be notified of future meetings, you can, and you're not getting the email, or if you're not getting the emails now and you'd like to, you can click on that link and it'll take you to our webpage where you can you can sign up for the emails.
Yeah, and I really want to acknowledge that we had some blips and we have several people got knocked off our list. So if you got knocked off, you're not alone. It wasn't intended personally, and this is how you get back on.
Yeah. And then the second link is for how you get to the recordings. We record all these calls, and you're welcome to they end up on YouTube, and you're welcome to watch them again. You can use them in your own practice group, whatever helps you to fulfill our mission of spreading nonviolent communication. Feel free to use those recordings. I'm starting to put handouts there when there are new handouts, and they go underneath the little picture of the website that shows the movie or the class. There's a little link that says link to handouts, and you can click on that and it shows the little slideshows for each week if there's a new one. Last couple of weeks there hasn't been anything new, so there's nothing there. And then the next link, I got some weird news from the publisher. The book's been out for a year now, and for whatever reason, sales have started to peter off. And so that just tells me I need to do a better job of making requests. This particular book's called Pathways to Nonviolent Communication. And next week, we're going to start working through that material again. So if you don't have the book yet, go ahead and order it. It's about $8. It's not a very expensive book. You can, and then buying it for friends. That's what I was going to suggest. And also asking your local library, if there is a library nearby, that you can ask them to buy copies of it as well. And the reason that I want you to buy the book is A, I think you'll benefit from it, but two, it's a fundraiser for the Center for Nonviolent Communication. So both the publisher and I are donating all of any of our profits from the book sales to the Center for Nonviolent Communication.
So if you want to contribute to us, this is a really wonderful way to contribute to us. Not only is it for you to buy it maybe for yourself, but to really send it out and contribute. And I also want to invite you, if you would like mediation or just a private session, and have some support for something going on for you. I've put my link, jory.youcanbook.me, into the chat. I welcome your connection. If you want to connect, please use that link. And I see that Tanya has her hand up. And
One
just
last
want to
thing.
make sure
One last thing.
Jim, yeah, I just want to make sure Jim's done.
Yeah.
Yes.
So one last link, which is if you don't want to buy the book and you want to contribute for the practice group, and I want to give you an update on what happened last week. So there's two ways you can contribute. You can send us money through PayPal, or you can donate directly to CNBC. But last week, I invited people to donate for Amina in the Philippines for her project doing NVC training for women in the small Islamic schools in her neighborhood. And the response, our goal was to raise $625. And we did it between you guys and the group the next day. We were able to raise the $625. Jory and I are chipping in the other $625. So that's $1,250 that goes directly to support people in the global south learning NVC. Amina is the only certified trainer in all of the Philippines. So there's millions of people there. She's all by herself. And I tell you, she was so touched by your generosity. And she's going to come and do a group for us a week from Friday. So watch your emails. And so for the next, it'll be a Saturday for some of you, but at our Supporting Holistic Systems meeting this month, in October. It'll be October 7th or 8th, depending on where you are. We will have a guest who's going to tell us about what it's like to try to do NVC in what used to be a war zone. Just literally months ago, there were tanks in the street. And now Amina is able to actually start teaching NVC to people again. And I really want to see what we can learn from her. So if they can do it in the Philippines, we certainly should be able to do it in Maui, for goodness sake. So Tanya?
You answered my request without me asking it. I wanted to know how it went for Amina.
Yeah, yeah. So hopefully you'll be able to meet her a week from this coming Friday or Saturday. So watch your email. There'll be a link in there for how to join that class and let your friends know about it. And guess what? That'll be a fundraiser for her. We'll use that so that she can go beyond this one little project and utilize us. This is our way. Those of us who live in the West, this is our way of paying our privilege forward. You know, we can forego a couple of cups of coffee if it, just think of it, makes how it can improve the lives of people in these in these places like Amina is working. It's just so touching. So thank you for your, I'm very grateful for your support. And just some other things that we've done with the money that you send us. We supported 3 Ukrainian trainers and being able to survive the early days of the war. And they didn't take the money for themselves. They used the money for their communities to help them meet basic needs. And so we're constantly on the lookout. We also, because of your generosity, we were able to support a Brazilian man who lives in Finland to go to an international intensive training. And now he has become a very active social change activist in Finland. And so there's all kinds of stories, and every dollar that you spend really goes straight to support these people meeting needs. So thank you. Amina's last name is something like Maobuai. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it because I don't speak Tagalog, but she's on the CNBC website. And there'll be a link to, I don't even know that she has a website for herself, but we'll get a chance to meet her next week. So we're at the bottom of the hour, and Jory, would you like to just check out and say how the class was for you today?
Well, I really enjoyed the class. It was fun. And I might say this every week, and I know I repeat myself a bit, but it's really the partnership that you show up and that you are supporting the same quality of consciousness that we're working on too. So thank you so much for coming. And if you know other people who want to join us, please invite them. Or and if you're not on our mail list and you can't figure out how to get back on our mail list, please feel free to send me a text at jory.mansky@gmail.com. And also, if you would like to have a session just together, either a connection session or if you're wanting more support, again, just put it into jory.youcanbook.me, and I will put it in again.
So the last thing to say today is what we're going to do next week is we're going to begin a new series, and we'll start with an opportunity to do some self-assessment, and we'll focus on the 9 skills that we've just been working on. So it'll be an opportunity for you to connect with yourself about what you've learned and celebrate that, and also to maybe make some requests of yourself about what you want to work on for the next period of time. And then we're going to start working again with the Pathways to Liberation matrix of self-assessment, but in a different way than we did it last year. We're going to combine it with some basic NVC processes to show how these particular skills apply in the real world. So less abstract, more concrete. That's the goal. And we learned a lot doing the 9 skills this time, and so we'll have more chances to experiment with different ways of supporting community connection in these small groups. Thank you all for your willingness to try out something new today. Really touched by that, and I look forward to seeing what we can all learn again together next week. If you want to stick around, I'll open up the practice groups, the small groups again, so you can say goodbye to each other.
Jim, I will do that, please,
Sure.
because I'm responding to a request there.
Okay, very good.
Okay, we will open these up. If you find yourself, if you want to meet with some people